Hey all, welcome back to the fold and some information for you. I'm going to be doing a few videos on the topic of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, 4th edition. And I just thought an intro one on, what it is could be an idea because I'm, planning on trying to run it. So I wanted to take you through a bit of a playlist of the steps and the thinking and the discoveries I'm making towards playing it, some of my considerations. A live diary as it happens as a GM plans. So, firstly, what is Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay? Let's make this an introduction and we'll deal with the other things in other videos. So, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay is essentially the Warhammer Fantasy world. It's the old world, but not the old world, because the old world is the prequel version of Warhammer Fantasy Old World. Confusing, isn't it? Let's take you back in time. Years back, way back, before the end times happened, Games Workshop had Warhammer Fantasy. It was their first product for miniatures wargaming. And then they brought out Warhammer 40k, well, arguably Rogue Trader and da-da-da-da. I'm not going to go grognard speak. We're just going to, speak about it in the basics. And basically, those two coexisted, and there were some smaller games that came up around it, like Blood Bowl and Necromunda and those things. But the main two games, until Lord of the Rings became a thing, was Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer 40k. Fantasy is what it sounds like, that Tolkien-esque universe. You'd play miniatures battle games. Everybody knows what Warhammer is, right? Like, buy all these miniatures and play them and roll dice and battle away. But there's always been a rich storyline, or fluff, as the players call it, backstory, and loads of novel series, and we especially see that now for 40k, even ongoing. So that's always been a thing until Games Workshop brought about the end times, where they wanted to just kill the world off, and that was it. That you can see a whole series of videos where I rage about that, because I didn't like the way they did it and the why they did it, really. But anyway, and then they replaced it with Age of Sigmar, which was basically a resurgence of all the material of that world and how it came together all this time later, and what happened to races and gods and things from then on, and let them make a new game, basically, which wasn't at all like Warhammer Fantasy. It was a skirmish-based game. Warhammer Fantasy was, movement trays, moving things around, and because there's so many miniatures and, cavalry and wheeling for charges and all this kind of stuff, which is lovely for me. That's what I really miss, being able to do something like that. But anyway, Age of Sigmar, a very, very different game, all about synergies and skirmishes, like 40k basically, but fantasy-ish, but this weird kind of extra dimensional feel fantasy thing. So it's not like basic fantasy anymore. And all the lore and the thing for that is all very, really crazy. But then, because they did that, they wanted to represent the old world as it was. So then Games Workshop brought out the Old World, which is another miniatures game, which actually is a prequel, and it's some hundreds of years before Warhammer Fantasy setting even. So what happened back then? So we get to go back in time, and there's a new miniatures game for that. Okay, enough about miniatures games, because we're talking about roleplay games. But some people get confused and think, oh, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, so that's Warhammer, right? You need miniatures. No, you don't. It's not that. Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay is like D&D. Completely like D&D. You have one character, you roleplay that character, they have a character sheet, they play with a games master, with a GM screen, if you like, and with a party of other people. It's like D&D, but it's in the Warhammer universe. Simple as. Okay. And they've, over the years, done 4 editions of this. They've all been very different. They've been put out by other companies in some cases. Now, Cubicle 7 have the license for this, and they are putting out the Warhammer roleplay games. They've got the 40k type stuff. They've got the old world kind of one on the way, I think. They've got the Age of Sigmar, Soulbound, is it called, one. And they also did the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. So now you know where everything's positioned and what everything is. So that's the series we're going to be talking about, the role play game for Warhammer Fantasy. Not Old World, not Age of Sigmar, not 40k, none of that. Warhammer Fantasy. So many products, I guess it's a good thing. But with so many products, you'd think, oh, yeah, they must be doing really, really well. And they probably are. Sold out massively on a lot of things. But with it comes its own frustrations. So we'll talk about that in my first steps on approach in the next video. I'll see you there.